Hey, what's up, my friends? It is JB Webb. We are back with you with the doubleheader local legend, 59, Will Walker, 60, Eli Tobias. You're going to find out about this great, persistent entrepreneur, these club owners, these guys who really keep pushing, making Orlando great. So enjoy this episode. We've got got a lot of work to do. We've got an ambitious goal to before the end of the season in May 2014. We're going to go on a marathon. We're going to do 40 interviews. We want to get to 100. So this being episode 60, we're going to need a lot of help. Anyway, we always need a lot of help. Enjoy the show. Hey, what's up, my friends? It's JB Webb, man. How you doing? I'm out here at one of the coolest kind of speakeasy places in Orlando. We got a local legend interview with Eli Tobias, and I'm inside of the Grotto and the Black Chapel Tattoo Studio, and we'll welcome this local legend, Eli Tobias. How you doing, bud?
Doing good. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you. Thank you for the hospitality here. You have a beautiful spot, a beautiful location. You're right off of State Lane, which is right off of Robinson, and in between, what's the other road?
We are between Livingston and Robinson, right off of Orange Avenue. Yep.
Right, yeah. And you're kind of nestled away here in a real cool little spot. We rolled up to the place and was like, oh, wow, it's a cool little bar atmosphere, and then you walk in, and you've actually got a lot of length to the bar.
I believe it might be defined as a shotgun. Shotgun. She's about 30 feet wide and 100 feet deep.
Cool.
Yeah, good size, perfect size.
It's a gorgeous. Now the amenities, the tile floor, the bar, everything looks superlative. It's a high-class downtown club. But we wanted to interview you as a local legend because you've been in Orlando for a long time. You've been helping push and grow different scenes in different places at different times. And good fortune would have you here now in your own club and tattoo studio, which is an awesome combination. Number one, I got a lot of great footage of your tattoo space and back here and up front. But what I'm curious about, what we're always interested in, is maybe hearing a little bit about your particular origins here in Orlando. So you want to reel us back 20 years. Typically our criteria on a local legends, 20 years of active involvement in our community.
Gotcha.
Providing support. So maybe, roll back a little for us and give us some time from the early 90s or mid 90s.
Well, 90s. I could push it back that far pretty easy. I grew up in Orlando.
Right.
And I grew up kind of like a typical dirty white boy, if you will, listening to rock and roll. Our city was kind of redneck back then.
Yeah.
And I grew up with what everybody's big brother was listening to, and even our parents, and grew up on rock and roll. And for that type of music, Orlando was really good. Let's say late 80s, early 90s. Once we got the grunge explosion and Nirvana changed the world.
Right.
And I grew up in band, and I was a band geek. I played the saxophone. So
you got musical talent. I didn't know.
I don't know how many people in this scene can let's say read music.
Yeah.
But we've got a ton of DJs and producers nowadays that make music. But I did grow up with a little bit of a music background. I'm certainly no rock and roll star, but I'm passionate about music. It's been a big part of my life. And we used to go out to places like the Station. We'd go to one of the greatest places ever was the Edge.
Oh, hell yeah. Pearl Jam was out there.
Yeah, we were going there, in my opinion, before the big EDM explosion. The Edge was here. I don't think they ever really knew what direction they were going to head. being one of the pioneers of the EDM movement, being one of the best clubs this city's ever seen and probably ever will. But I used to go there to see shows and go to the rock nights and hang out with my buddies. And one night we were there late night on a weekend, and they kind of started playing this weird music that nobody'd ever really heard before, and it hooked me.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of a new me, a reinvention, if you will. And I decided that I had to work downtown. I had to be a part of the nightclub scene, and that's really where my history started, at the Edge, and that was easily 20 years ago now.
Well, and the Edge was legendary for getting great acts, great music, all, at the time. And before we started rolling on this interview, you shared with me, there's basically no social media back in the 90s. So how do you get the word out there? And a lot of it was word of mouth, right?
That was about it. I mean, of course, the radio stations would push the concerts.
Yeah.
But I wish I could remember exactly how it was that, let's say, the Edge got to fill the Edge with a show like Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
And that was a long time ago. They weren't that, like, let's say, that crazy popular yet.
Right.
And you should have seen the show. I don't know if you were there. Pearl Jam that we
I was
did
there
for
for
New Year's
Pearl
Eve.
Jam. I was there
Those
for
were
Pearl Jam.
great shows.
Yeah.
And it did take that there was less clubs. There seemed to me to be more interest in underground type stuff. And now our underground is taking a little twist and turn. It's a little more mainstream, and now you can see it in every TV commercial,
Right,
every
sure.
social media outlet. So, there's something to be said for technology, everything being digital, everything being there at the push of a button on an iPhone.
Right.
But back in the day, the real true underground stuff, that organic stuff that was happening back then, we were feeding each other kind of, is probably something that will never be replicated.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Orlando, Florida in general had a lot of great underground electronic sounds that came from DJs, that came from rap artists. You talk Two Live Crew, that shit was all, a big part of the culture back then. So it's cool to hear you have more rock and roll kind of background. Is that what happens here? So let's talk a little bit about maybe how you flash forward first from the 90s into the early 2000s into having your own club, The Grotto.
Well, I would have to say that it's a simple dream. I've talked to so many people that have that simple dream. I'd love to own a bar. I'd love to own a club. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
And the truth be known, on the other side, the club owns you. You work 7 days a week, 7 nights a week, never escape.
Right.
But, it's an aspiration. And when I was a kid, I worked in restaurants.
Okay.
Every position you could do in a restaurant. And
That's
I
good.
knew how to get to where I wanted to be in a nightclub, because I knew you start as a bar back.
All the inner working.
You got to start at the
Right.
bottom, and you work your way up, and you keep going, and you keep going. And,
Right.
and to have a good, solid, long-term career in this kind of an industry, you've got to see it. You've got to see trends. You've got to know right place and right time. And you've even got to see it if you want to be a bar back. You've got to pick the right nightclub to start at and to be
Right.
at. And if your place, I hate to say this, but if your place is starting to fall off, management isn't doing enough to save it, sometimes it's best to jump ship, go to another place that is peaking
Right.
on their way crescendoing up, and
Right.
keep riding that wave. So
It's like the association type of thing.
I mean, when you're an employee, you should do the very best that you could do, and then when things aren't exactly the way you want, it's best to, I think, part ways and move on to
Well, you gotta
another
have
thing
your
that
own-
continues the opportunity.
Your own goals in mind. So
Right.
I guess that whole mentality then brought you over the past few years, let's say 98, 99, into the 2000s. And then how'd you get to open up your own club?
Well, I got jobs with nightclubs promoting events.
Okay.
And then if I did a good job, the clubs, I've worked in a lot of clubs. The
Yeah.
clubs would hire you on. They put you on staff. So then you'd pick up like a weekly, or you'd pick up
Right.
2 weeklies, or you'd be interior on everything they did. So I built my network, built my clientele, built a reputation, and just never stopped. And it was never compromising. And it was my opinion of cool. That was it. It didn't matter what other people think, because you can never please everyone. So
Right,
as long
right.
as you can please enough people, then what you're doing can be
To pack
successful.
out the club, yeah.
Just, you have to do enough.
Okay, so that's cool. So you really were doing a lot of promotions, kind of becoming a tastemaker almost, and that kind of parlayed you right into
Building a
hey, we
clientele
got-
and getting, and again, the right place, the right time. I was working
Okay.
for the Alpha Bar, and
Oh, wow, that
while I
goes
was
back.
working there, the space next door came available, and I rented it, and
Yeah.
and it was tiny,
Yeah.
and it was a great time, but it was perfect timing. We turned it out.
But it was infamous for fun as hell shit. Girls dancing on the bar, people crazy stuff happening there. It was fun.
It was uninhibited, I
Yeah,
guess, if
that's
you
a
will.
good way.
It was a great time, and we made sure that our customers were safe. We made sure they had a great time because our jobs are to be hospitable and entertain.
Right.
Our customers are, for the most part, they're daytime people or maybe they're hospitality employees, but the reality is of what we give people is we give them an escape from their normal day-to-day.
Right.
So we don't want to give them a hard time at the door or at the bar or on the dance floor. They're there
Right.
to have a good time, whether
They're
they're spending
doing their thing.
$5 or $100, they're
Right.
out to get down. They want
Yeah.
to forget about the hard day they had, the girl that just broke up with them, the bills they have to pay. They want to get away with that for a few
Right.
hours. So
Right.
that's what we provide.
Provide that for them.
Yeah.
So cool. So, all right, so you've got your own place. You had it for a relatively long shelf life, I guess, in the early 2000s, where clubs would come and go like gnats. You were there for a few good solid years. You built a good solid base. What about some of the talent you would bring in? You bring in Orlando DJs. You bring in other individuals kind of coming through town. Did your promotions work really kind of help a lot with building that consistent, base of talent coming through your joint?
Well, I would think that your reputation really goes a long way when it comes to booking entertainment, booking talent.
Right.
Because if somebody hasn't heard of you, they may not want to play for you. If they've heard that you're an asshole, they're probably not going to play for you.
Right.
If they've heard that you're hospitable and they'll have a great time with you, they may give you, let's say, a discount and make it affordable for you to bring them in.
Right, like
where
we really want to come here. Yeah.
yeah, and we get people all the time, honestly, because of the way that we treat our customers and we treat our talent, where they'll give us a break and they'll come play for us, even though we're a smaller venue, because of the feel good and the opportunity they have to be in a cooler, if you will.
Right.
You can't call yourself cool, but we know what we
Yeah,
do.
you can.
A bit of an underground thing, and we play into what it is that a lot of artists want. So.
Well, and that's a good, insightful kind of understanding into the subculture, I guess is what it is here in Orlando, because if you talk about the main culture, it's a damn Peabody Auditorium they're building, but regardless of that, what I'm interested in and why we really brand you as a local legend is because concurrent with that, or when did Black Chapel Tattoo Studio kind of start up? Was
Well,
that just at the end
No,
of the
Black
first
Chapel
grotto?
was about 6 years ago when
Okay.
I started that, and the grotto, the original grotto closed in '05, and that was 15 years already in nightclubs. I was pretty jaded at the time.
Were you all busted up when that went down?
My business was stolen
Yeah.
from me.
Yeah.
It was completely taken away. 30-day notice. The building was sold. The city enabled the buyer to buy the building, and they just booted 5 bars out of the building. So
Wow.
I was a little over it. I needed a break.
Yeah.
But the opportunity to get in this new building popped up, and honestly, my career was really nothing more than night after night after night of enjoying people's fun.
Right.
And it was giving birth to DJs, to talents, to people who would never have had an opportunity to play a larger venue. And really, the smaller places in town, like let's say Back Booth, perfect
Okay.
example.
Yeah.
Where there's a few places that are the same size as us that have the affordability to play a smaller actor, smaller talent,
Right.
and still make it effective, still make it affordable, and get people out there into people's ears and people's hearts. So yeah, it's great that we have the Firestones and the Beechams and the socials of
Sure.
the city, but this city needs, and every city needs, a little bit smaller venue so
of
the
an
guys can cut their teeth and get
Outlet
out there
for
and
the
get
guys
known.
in the community that have
Local
a
people will
passion
never get
and-
known without something like what it is that we do, and that's what I'm most proud of. Is when somebody
Yeah.
says, "Eli, I got my start because of you, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got a couple really good buddies that would say that. So let's talk about what happened then from Black Chapel Tattoo Studio. You were in that infamous building there, right on Colonial. You moved away from there, but in between 2005 and this club's been open for a year
Almost
now,
a year.
right? Okay, so now it's on State Lane. We talked about where it is. I'll throw all this up on the video side of it. But what's really cool is you have your tattoo studio in here. There's a lot of arduous rules with tattoo, that whole art form. So when you walk in here, you can really sense the superlative cleanliness of the fact you have a tattoo studio, you have a bar, you go in the bathrooms, everything. I mean, so you've done a great job in having a sterile, pleasant location. How, I guess, give us a little bit of, I know some stuff, but you had to move out of that place you were in with Black Chapel, and you said, let's combine the two, the Grotto, the Black Chapel, and that's what we have right now. Is a badass bar with a badass way to get a tattoo right within the bar, and then you go back into the bar, and there's a whole performance area. You could do live bands back here, you could do DJs, you could do dancing. So I'm interested to hear about maybe the amalgamation of those two things, and did it just make sense at the time that, hey, this is not working, we're going to do it over here, or what were some of the thought processes along those lines, having emerged things?
I would have to say that any business, this and pretty much any other out there, is what you do as a business person is you fail and fail and fail and fail until you can't figure out any other ways to fail.
Right.
Once you've got all that figured out, then you can be successful.
Right.
So I would say that the tattoo studio being here is happen chance, but it's a great fit.
Oh,
and
it's awesome.
We tried it, and it is working, so that's fortunate. We've tried other things that didn't work, but that's part of life. My favorite thing about this business is, let's say we'll compare it to AT&T.
Okay.
All those big boys, big money, nationwide, big brains, big dollar. It's just, wow. Think of how hard it is to run a company like that. They come up with a promotion. They're going to give you this much for the minutes, and this much for unlimited, and this and that and that and this. And when they roll out, they're stuck. They're stuck. What they made up, if they were right or wrong, they're stuck. If I want to do a rock and roll band this Friday and do something different next Friday, I can change every morning. So we're really flexible. We get to experiment. But around here, the number one thing that keeps you going day in and day out is pride. When people tell you, man, I've never been to a club in downtown Orlando that was as clean as yours.
Right.
It feels good.
It does feel good. It feels like home. I mean, depending on what your home is.
Right. And people point it out. They're like, is it the carryover from the tattoo studio?
Yeah.
Well, I learned back at a club called Empire. Huge club on OBT. It was huge, 45,000 square feet. I opened my eyes at that club when I was the promotional director for it. It was called Splash.
Yeah. North OBT, right? Oh, okay. I know exactly. I've been there.
10 acres.
Oh, it was gorgeous.
Amazing.
On a lake. It was
amazing.
Phenomenal.
That was handed over to me, and as I was walking around, I noticed that we had these giant walls of mirrors with handprints and face prints and whatever all over them, and we had the biggest bathrooms I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And they were always a wreck and always messy, and doors falling off and everything broken, and I decided that I wanted to clean the club up and fix things. And instead of just blankly looking down at the floor, I started looking up and looking at everything. And that's when it really changed for me. It's not so much that we've got the tattoo studio must be sterile for health department mentality.
Right.
But why wouldn't we want it to be nice for our customers?
Everything is nice.
So we fix everything the second it's broken. We paint everything the second it gets a scratch. We keep on top of it as much as you can. It's not like we're superhuman, but I've worked for plenty of places that didn't care at all. The floors are sticky and you'll fall through them, and the bathrooms have 2 inches of water in them, and it's just...
That's a lot of liability that doesn't go along with the fun.
People don't like it. You might get a place that's flashing and it's got a ton of people in it, and sure, maybe people are beating it up because there's so many people in there, but you could fix it the next day.
Right.
You really can.
Right.
So we get the compliment here of it being clean, it being beautiful, and that pumps me up. That's my ego there. When people,
Yeah.
when you draw them out of their homes and you get them out to spend a couple bucks, and they tell you how proud they are of your place, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt, man. I hope that we can maybe do a little bit more work with you along the line of bringing some podcasts here. This is such a great space because, like I said, you've got a kind of division maybe of that environment and this environment. So you can do a lot of stuff here, and you look at the front, and it looks like it could be small. But it's actually very long, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, the shotgun.
Yeah, every person that comes in, it's the same old joke. They're like, wow, I had no clue it was this big.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, you come in the front and it's beautiful, and you come in the back and it's beautiful. I don't know what more you want.
Well, we found that it works good for house music, for breaks.
Yeah.
We've done reggae, we've done ska, we've done heavy metal, we've done southern rock,
Really?
industrial. We've put it all in here, and
So-
it's all worked.
Well, and that's a good question. So if people really want to get involved with The Grotto, what's the best way for them to kind of reach out to you maybe, or your promotions people personally? Is it through your website, through Facebook, or what's the best way for people to kind of say, hey, we want to maybe, have our couple bands play there, or what have you?
It's just like you'd think with everybody else nowadays online. And
Okay.
I think the one thing I've done to make it a tiny bit difficult for us, but it's also kind of our signature, is the word the has two E's.
The.
So The Grotto.
Double E, right,
And
okay.
whether it's our website or our Facebook, it's where people could find out what it is that we're doing. We're always experimenting. I'll always try something. If it's a promoter or a band or a producer, bring
You
something
talk
to
about
me.
it. You at least
We'll-
talk about it.
Totally.
And see what's possible.
Just like tattoo artists, people ask me if I'm hiring. I want to see every portfolio known to man.
Right.
I love art. Art is music. Art is whatever it is. It can't be defined. So
Right.
that's what it is we do. Whether it's music, whether it's on paper, whether it's on skin, we're about it. We're here every day on it.
Well, that's badass. So we've been speaking with a local legend. His name's Eli Tobias. You're listening to the JB Webb Show. Eli, thank you so much for your time. Hang
Wow.
with me
Thank
here.
you, sir.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Listen, check out The Grotto if you have not already. And if you want a tattoo and would enjoy a cocktail whilst engaging in the ancient, beautiful art of tattoo, you can do that here. That's what's so cool. I'm JB Webb. We're finishing up this year's local legend interview, honoring the hardworking guys who do it every day to make Orlando greater. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with a little bit more.
Orlando, Florida. The first quasi-radio web show.
Wow. Yeah.